I watched my grandmother sit by the window for 3 hours waiting for her grandchild to arrive. When he finally came, she didn't rush to greet him. She just watched him from across the room, tears silently rolling down her face. And I realized in that moment, after 70, family visits aren't really about visits at all. They're about something we've forgotten in our busy lives, something that changes everything. Stay with me. Before we begin, I'd like for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can enjoy every other video I post, filled with stories and wisdom that can change how you see life. Stories like the one we're about to explore today. Let's dive in. You know, when you're young, family visits are just things that happen. Your parents visit you, or you visit them. It's routine. You're distracted by your phone, by work stress, by the next thing on your to-do list. It feels like an obligation sometimes, a box to check off. But something profound happens around your 70th year, and nobody really prepares you for it. A woman named Eleanor once told me something I'll never forget. She said, "Nobody tells you that at 70 you start counting visits instead of taking them for granted." When she was 65, her daughter visited every other month. She'd make small talk, ask about work, nod along to stories. But after 70, the same visit felt completely different. It wasn't the visit that changed. Eleanor changed. She realized, slowly, quietly, that each visit might be one of the last. Not in a morbid way, not obsessively, just a gentle, undeniable truth that settles into your bones when you reach a certain age, that every goodbye might be the final one. And suddenly, the way you listen transforms. The way you look at your loved one's face transforms. You're no longer just present, you're preserving. You're memorizing. This is the shift nobody talks about. This is what makes family visits after 70 so achingly beautiful and so deeply complicated at the same time. When we're younger, we think we understand family. We understand duty, tradition, obligation. But as we grow older, we begin to understand something more profound, that family is a language. And like all languages, it evolves. Let me tell you about the 5 ways an aging heart tries to communicate what visits really mean. First, the language of presence. There was a man named Robert who used to live alone after his wife passed. His children would visit on Christmas and birthdays, the expected times. They'd bring gifts, stay for a few hours, then leave. Robert never complained. But on one visit, his youngest daughter decided to do something different. Instead of bringing a gift, she came empty-handed and asked, "Can we just sit together? No agenda, no plans, just be here." That day, they sat in his kitchen for 6 hours. They didn't even talk much. Sometimes they watched old family photos. Sometimes they looked out the window. Sometimes they just existed in the same space. When she left, Robert cried, not from sadness, but from feeling truly seen for the first time in years. You see, after 70, your greatest gift isn't what you bring, it's who you are when you're there. The quality of your presence becomes more valuable than anything in a shopping bag. Second, the language of listening. My grandmother lived to 93. I visited her often, especially near the end, and I noticed something. She would tell the same stories over and over. The story about how she met my grandfather, the story about the year it snowed so heavily that the whole town shut down, the story about her first job. When you're young, you might dismiss this as repetition, as signs of fading memory. But then I understood. She wasn't repeating for her. She was repeating for us. She was trying to make sure we knew her, really knew her. She was desperately trying to pass something down before time ran out. The greatest gift a younger person can give to someone over 70 is the gift of being interested again. Ask them to tell the story one more time. Lean in like you've never heard it before. Because for them, that story isn't just words, it's their legacy. It's how they live on. Third, the language of unspoken time. Dorothy told me something that shattered my understanding of aging. She said, when you're young, you measure time by what you accomplish. When you're old, you measure time by who you're with. And here's the part that really struck me. People think they're wasting their time sitting with their elderly parents or grandparents. They think, I could be doing something productive. But they don't understand, this is productive. This is legacy. This is immortality in its purest form. Every hour you spend with someone over 70, really with them, is a thread in the fabric of their final chapter. It's saying, your life mattered. You matter. You are still worthy of my time. Fourth, the language of small gestures. I learned this from visiting a retirement community where I was collecting stories. An elderly man named George sat in a wheelchair, mostly nonverbal after a stroke. His granddaughter would visit, and while other visitors felt uncomfortable with his silence, she did something remarkable. She'd hold his hand and simply narrate what was happening around them. Oh, Grandpa, look at the cardinal at the feeder. Remember when we tried to build that birdhouse together? She wasn't looking for responses. She was giving him the gift of being remembered. And I saw something shift in his face, not verbal, but visible in his eyes. A sense of peace, as if someone had just whispered, I haven't forgotten you. You're still here, in me. Small gestures after 70, a cup of tea made just right, a hand held during silence, remembering the little details of their days. These are the conversations happening beneath the surface. Fifth, the language of forgiveness. This is perhaps the most profound language and the one that requires the most courage. I met a woman named Margaret who hadn't spoken to her brother in 15 years. They'd had a terrible fight, the kind families have, bitter, wounding, final feeling. Margaret was 72, her brother 75. She finally decided to visit him. She told me afterward, I walked up to his door terrified. I hadn't prepared a speech. I didn't know what I'd say. I just knocked. He answered, looked at me for a long moment, and said, It's about damn time. Then he hugged her, and they both cried. They didn't rehash the fight. They didn't explain or justify. They just chose to be family again, knowing that the time for pride was running out, that the time for grudges had passed. After 70, family visits become an opportunity for one of life's greatest gifts, the chance to say, without words sometimes, I forgive you. Let's not waste what time is left. Here's what nobody tells you. When you're over 70, much of what matters most never gets spoken. A woman named Catherine described it this way. She said, I wanted to tell my children so many things, that I was proud of them, that I was sorry for the times I wasn't present back then when I was caught up in building a career, that their lives matter so much to me. But the words felt too big, too much. So instead, I just cook them their favorite meals when they visit. I just show up, and I hope they understand. And this is the paradox. The older generation often needs to say these things more desperately, but sometimes finds it harder to say them. The younger generation often doesn't know how hungry their aging parents are to hear their approval, to know they've done something right. I met a man named Theodore who lost his son before he could ever tell him that he loved him. Not that the son didn't know, but Theodore never got to say it directly. He said to me with a voice broken by time, don't wait, don't assume, tell them, because one day you won't have the chance.
This is what makes family visits after 70 so weighted with meaning. It's not just about being together. It's about communicating what might be the last important thing you ever say. It's about reducing regret to its absolute minimum. There's a quiet wisdom that emerges when you've loved people long enough to know you'll lose them. It's a wisdom that completely transforms how you see family, time, and what actually matters. A woman named Iris, who is 97 as I record this, told me something that I think changes everything. She said, when you're young, you think family visits are about catching up or obliging. As you get older, you realize they're about proving that love didn't fade just because time and distance exist. Proving that bonds are stronger than absence. Proving that you're still connected even as everything changes. And then she said something even more profound. After 70, every visit is a masterclass in what matters. Because you stop talking about superficial things. You stop complaining about work or getting caught up in gossip. You just remember that this person made you. They shaped you. They loved you before you were anyone at all. And suddenly, all your pride and all your busy life feels small in the face of that. When Iris's daughter visits now, they don't discuss current events. They look at old photographs. They cook together using recipes that have been in the family for generations. They sometimes sit in silence, but it's not uncomfortable silence. It's the kind of quiet that only comes between people who truly know each other. The wisdom isn't complicated. It's this. After 70, people begin to understand that they won't be here forever. And when you really accept that, when you feel that deep in your being, family visits stop being something you do and start being something you treasure. Every meal becomes a feast because it might be the last one. Every story becomes precious because it might be the last time you hear it in that particular voice. Every laugh becomes sacred because you're acutely aware that laughter is finite. This is why family visits after 70 carry such weight. It's not judgment or sadness, it's clarity. It's finally seeing what was always true, but required a lifetime to fully understand. Now I want to pause here because I suspect many of you watching have an older parent, grandparent, or aging relative. And I suspect that some of you might be carrying guilt. Perhaps you haven't visited in a while. Perhaps you live far away. Perhaps you're busy and you've been putting it off. I want to tell you something. It's never too late. The older generation understands burden. They understand life. They understand that you can't always be there physically. But what they understand even more deeply is that when you do show up, it matters in a way that transcends time and distance. A woman named Paula hadn't seen her mother in 3 years due to complications and distance. When she finally visited, she was terrified. Terrified that her mother would be angry, that the relationship had been damaged. But when her mother saw her at the door, she simply said, "You came. That's all that matters." And Paula realized forgiveness, reconciliation, and love are built into the aging process. The older generation has learned that people are imperfect, that life is complicated, and that showing up in whatever form, whenever possible, is what counts. So if you're watching this and you have an elderly person in your life, consider reaching out, not because you owe them something, but because someday they won't be here. And that someday might be sooner than you think. Don't wait for a birthday or a holiday. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Pick up the phone, schedule the visit, sit with them, listen to their stories, ask them about their lives, tell them what they mean to you. Because after 70, every visit is a gift to both of you. Every conversation is a chance to say, "I love you. You matter. Your life has meaning." I want to end with something that my grandmother once said to me during one of our visits. She was 86, and she took my hand and said, "You know what I've figured out after all these years? Life isn't measured in the big moments. It's measured in the visits, in the conversations, in the times when people could have been anywhere else but chose to be here with me." She squeezed my hand and added, "When I'm gone, you won't remember what presents I gave you or what achievements I celebrated. You'll remember sitting together, You'll remember the sound of my laugh. You'll remember that I was there and you were there, and that was enough. After 70, that wisdom becomes the greatest gift someone can pass down, because it reframes what a life well lived actually means. It's not about what you accumulated or accomplished. It's about who you loved and who loved you. It's about the visits. It's about showing up. So if you're aging, know this. Your presence is enough. Your stories matter. Your love is recognized even when it's not loudly stated. And every visit from someone you love is a confirmation that you are still seen, still valued, still loved. And if you're younger, know this too. The older generation in your life are trying to tell you something important through every meal they cook for you, every story they repeat, every moment they spend just being with you. They're telling you what truly matters. They're teaching you how to live. I'm grateful for my grandmother. I'm grateful for Eleanor and Robert and Dorothy and Margaret and Catherine and Theodore and Iris and Paula and all the older souls who've taught me that after 70, family visits aren't obligations, they're the whole point. Thank you for being here with me today. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button. Share it with someone you love. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss future stories filled with wisdom that can change how you see life. Until next time, cherish your visits. Cherish your people, because as we've learned today, that time is the most precious thing any of us have. Take care.